contractors. Let's jump in and take a quick tour of the model. So this is a view of what the completed model will look like at the end of this course. And this gives us a chance to highlight some of the really interesting things that we're going to work through in the upcoming lessons together with you. For instance, you may have remembered in some of the past courses in the series that we looked at limiting the inputs that can go into certain cells using conditional formatting. So as a quick refresh, if we went into this cell where we have 21 days for this particular contractor, if we delete out that entry, we get a model alert. Also, if we were to put in a negative number like this, we get a model alert. And finally, if we were to overschedule them, put them in for 22 days, which is greater than the possible workdays here, we also get a number of alerts coming up. We've got a scheduling issue down here. And as you may have guessed, over on the cover page, we've got a scheduling issue for the contractors that shows up right there with the orange X. Now let's just pop back up here, put a 21 back in there before we forget. Now, in order to check whether or not someone's been overscheduled, we have to calculate the actual number of workdays in here. What do we mean by a workday? Well, essentially, we're eliminating all the weekends and holidays. And we'll go through that in the course. And in fact, there's a wonderful formula in Excel that's designed exactly for this purpose. Now, down in this section of the model here, you can see some interesting conditional formatting. Now, this is not new. We've covered it in previous FP&A courses, so we won't give you work to do on it, but just notice how effective it is. In this column right here, January 2025, we can see the amounts per day increasing and then stabilizing at that level for the subsequent months. Now, down to this particular section of the schedule here, don't think you'll find too many surprises there. Pretty straightforward formula that we're going to put together. But down here, in order to detect if there's a scheduling issue, we're going to need a little bit more complexity in this particular formula, and we'll go through that with you. Now, all of the contractor expense amounts that we've calculated here, they're accrued amounts. And as you can probably guess, they're going to go straight to the income statement and help us get a meaningful measure of profit for this company, which is obviously one of the health checks that we need to perform. Let's jump ahead to the next schedule now and take a look at what we're going to be doing there. So finally here, onto the contractor payables schedule. Now we're essentially looking at cash flow amounts. What we need to do in this section of the model is bake in a 1-month delay since we're paying these contractors 1 month after they do the work. Not too complicated, but we need to go through exactly how to put that into the model. And I hope you're getting nice and familiar with these structures down here. Corkscrews. We're going to follow this cork through forward through time, and then we're going to use it to get to this amount here, which is a cash amount. And as you probably guessed, this is going to go straight to the cash flow statement, which we'll assemble later. It gives us a check on the company's ability to manage cash flow, which is, again, another health check that we need to perform. Now let's just use the scroll lock key to move down like this and see what else we're going to be building with this total cost schedule right here. Now, one of the things that we can absolutely promise you down here in this total cost schedule is you're going to love it. Why? We've done all the hard work and calculations at this point. Here, we're just aggregating figures and putting in really simple links and summing things up. So obviously in this section of the schedule, we're really aggregating the figures together to get to COGS, or cost of goods sold. And then further below, we're just going to have really simple inputs for the SG&A, which is selling, general, and administrative. So after we've completed this total cost schedule, we've actually completed this particular course. But also, we've completed a lot of the figures that we're going to need for the income statement, which is great. So hopefully you're as excited as we are about this particular course and these sections of the model that we've highlighted in this video. Let's jump ahead to the next one now and get started. Now, you might have seen the name for this lesson and thought, oh no, we really have an assignment to do? Absolutely. We want to set you up with an assignment, essentially for this particular schedule, but we're going to give you a couple of hints and a little bit of guidance to set you up for success. Now, first of all, in the last lesson, you should have had the opportunity to download all of the necessary files for this particular course. There will be an Excel file that's effectively labeled as template, and there's going to be a completed file, but that one is a PDF. It's essentially a printout or a capture of what the model should look like when it's all finished. Now, if you didn't have an opportunity to download these files, you should definitely pause this video, go back, download those files, and then continue back and pick up right here. We'll go through some instructions to get you started. Now, your natural instinct here is probably going to be to progress from top to bottom down the schedule, but we're actually going to recommend that you start down here. Calculate this line for the total workdays all the way across the file and across the schedule. And now, one hint about the possible workdays is there is a function in Excel that's designed for this, and it's just perfect. But you will have to think about how to feed a start date and an end date into that function. Now, keep in mind that as you're working through this, it is not cheating to look at that completed PDF. You should, in fact, check back against that completed PDF to make sure that your numbers are matching what's in that PDF. Now, once you get the possible workdays, what you could do is go across this row and copy all of these figures and then pop up here, and you can just paste them as special values. That's one way to put it in. There will be something you'll need to delete, or you could just go across here cell by cell and punch in the appropriate numbers, making sure to not leave any blank, of course. Now, that will get you into a position then where you finish this section of the model. Down here, you find there's nothing for you to do. Just notice that we put the nice conditional formatting in here. If you're curious about it, head back to the previous FP&A courses where you can check out exactly how to get these really nice up and down arrows here. Now, on to the next section right in here for contractor expense. And filling in this gray area, hope you're going to find that it's relatively straightforward and just really a simple formula. Now, definitely down at the bottom right in here, where we're investigating whether or not there's a scheduling issue. That one may be tricky, but definitely hop in there and give it a go. If you at least try it, then you'll understand some of the complexities and you'll be in a really good position for when we take it up to understand how we've overcome those complexities with the correct formula. So the main goal here, and really the assignment, fill in as much as you can on this schedule or this page of the model. The idea is that if you happen to get stuck, like let's say you get stuck in this area here for possible workdays, don't let that stop you. Continue on for the whole schedule and try to see how much of it that you can fill in. For instance, even if you don't have this this line across here, for the strategy specialist, you can still do all of these contractor expense calculations all the way across here with the exception of one row. So really do what you can, and then we're going to join together and we're going to take it all up and show you how we did it. We'll see you there. So hopefully you had some success with that last assignment there. And if you didn't get everything, don't worry about it. It's just at least important that you tried, because that way you're aware of some of the complexities and difficulties here, and then you're going to get so much more out of this particular lesson and the upcoming lessons when we go through the formulas and the techniques that we use. Let's jump into it. Now, don't be put off by these orange alerts that are popping up in the first table here. They're going to clean up really quickly as soon as we get a couple rows of information put in here. Now, first up, we want to look at possible workdays. And we alluded to the fact that there's a perfect formula in Excel for this, and it's actually called net workdays. So this Excel function is going to need a start date and an end date. And we're going to leverage the date that we already have right here in this cell. But we need to understand exactly which date in January is in that cell. So let's just pop all the way up to the top of this model tab, just like this. And we're going to go into this cell here in row 7, hit F2, and we can see that in fact that date is in 2024, and it's the last day of January, the 31st, okay? So what we're gonna do, knowing that, we pop back down to the schedule that we're working on right here, Contractor Scheduling, tap that scroll lock key, roll back into place here, and we're all set, knowing that this is actually January 31st, or the last day of the month. So let's get right into it. Down here, in this cell, we're gonna put in equals, start typing in net, and we can see net work days right away, so we hit the tab key, completes the function name and opens a bracket for us. Now for the start date, this is gonna be tricky, right? We know the end date, that's easy. The end date is effectively right here. It's already ready for us, but the start date, we're actually gonna use EO month. So I'm gonna type in EO, hit that tab key again, okay? Now the start date for EO month is going to be this cell, right? But then we want to effectively put in a comma, and we want to make it go back a month to December 31st. So we put in a -1 and close the bracket. Now we're back at December 31st, 2023. But our actual start date is going to be one day later, January 1st. So now we're going to add 1. Put in a comma, and that's defined our start date perfectly. Now, as we mentioned, the end date is easy. For the end date, we're just going to link right here like this, close the bracket there for net work days, and hit enter. Amazing. Now, just a heads up. I know that was a little difficult, but some people, when they're putting in these functions that rely on dates, they might want to try to plug in a start date there and have that be the end date. Or with some of the other date functions, they might be using something from this column and that column. That's not ideal, because when you get to the end of the forecast period here, then you're going to need to plug in an extra date. So what we always like to do, if we can, is stay within the same column here, in column G. And that's absolutely ideal, because we're going to be able to just copy it across perfectly. So let's get that copy done. Okay, so copy here, use the shift key, and the right arrow to highlight across, Alt-ES, and then down to formulas, hit enter. Amazing. So there's a bunch of different ways to get the numbers that we need into this area here. But let's show you a technique you may not have thought of. We've highlighted across the row first. We're going to hit 0, and then Control Enter. Okay, so copy here, use the shift key, and the right arrow to highlight across, get that light into the forecast, something from that date. No, that was a little bracket there. Is at put B, start key. So we're gonna put in equals, start typing in net, and we can see net work days right away, so we hit the tab key, completes the function name and opens a bracket for us. Now for the start date, this is gonna be tricky, right? We know the end date, that's easy. The end date is effectively right here. It's already ready for us, but the start date, we're actually gonna use EO month. So I'm gonna type in EO, hit that tab key again, okay? Now the start date for EO month is going to be this cell, right? But then we want to effectively put in a comma, and we want to make it go back a month to December 31st. So we're going to put in a -1 and close the bracket. Now we're back at December 31st, 2023. But our actual start date is going to be one day later, January 1st. So now we're going to add 1. Put in a comma, and that's defined our start date perfectly. Now, as we mentioned, the end date is easy. For the end date, we're just going to link right here like this, close the bracket there for net work days, and hit enter. Amazing. Now, just a heads up. I know that was a little difficult, but some people, when they're putting in these functions that rely on dates, they might want to try to plug in a start date there and have that be the end date. Or with some of the other date functions, they might be using something from this column and that column. That's not ideal, because when you get to the end of the forecast period here, then you're going to need to plug in an extra date. So what we always like to do, if we can, is stay within the same column here, in column G. And that's absolutely ideal, because we're going to be able to just copy it across perfectly. So let's get that copy done. Okay, so copy here, use the shift key, and the right arrow to highlight across, Alt-ES, and then down to formulas, hit enter. Amazing. So there's a bunch of different ways to get the numbers that we need into this area here. But let's show you a technique you may not have thought of. We've highlighted across the row first. We're going to hit 0, and then Control Enter, which puts zeros in all of these cells to start. So by looking at the PDF printout, the model, you may have noticed to this area here. But let's show you a technique you may not have thought of. We've highlighted across the row first. We're going to hit 0, and then Control Enter, which puts zeros in all of these cells to start. So by looking at the PDF printout, the model, you may have noticed that this strategy specialist is only scheduled to work in the months that occur in the middle of each quarter. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go to that middle month here, February, and say equals, and link it up, because we're going to be working every possible workday in that month. Okay, like this. And we're just going to copy that formula we put in now, paste it here, paste, 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 all the way across, and always putting it into the middle months, just like that. Now what we do, since we don't want to leave the formulas in there, we've highlighted all these cells. We're going to do a copy, and Alt-ES, we're going to paste the values. Okay, so now when we pop into those cells, we just have a value, no more formulas. Because we want to rid the model of those formulas, because these should just be inputs, since they're formatted to have a blue font color. So there's lots of different ways that you could put these numbers into this particular row in the model. One of the things we like about this technique, though, is it just ensures that this particular strategy specialist is in fact working for every possible work Workday. Let's jump ahead to the next video, and we're going to hop down to the next gray section. You're going to find the formulas in there pretty straightforward. See you there in a minute. So as you can see, we're right down here in this section of the model. We're going to anticipate some easy formulas, relatively straightforward. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start in this column here, actually, because there's some numbers that we can see. And really, all we're doing here is we're saying equals. We're going to grab the amount per day for the strategy specialist, and we're going to multiply through by the number of days that they're working. Hit enter. Now this number here is not showing up. It comes out to about $19,000, but we need to look up here, the global units marker. We want to show all these figures in US dollar thousands. That means that we need to hop back into the cell. We need to divide that by a factor of 1,000 like this. Hit enter. We get the formula that we're looking for. So let's grab that formula, copy with the Control C. We're going to use the Shift key and also all the arrows to highlight across, Alt S, down to formulas, hit enter. We're all done in that section. Now we want to build up the formula down here to see whether or not there's a scheduling issue. Now we're going to be linking up the formula to this top table here for scheduled days. So let's actually build it in this row so we can link really, really closely. We're going to change the fill color here. Let's just go Alt HH. I'm going to grab this nice light orange here and then build the formula right in here. Now for the formula that we're going to build in here, you may have gone backwards in the model and peeked at what we had done for employee scheduling. That wouldn't have been cheating. We would call that resourcefulness. But that would have given you a formula that looked essentially like this. Max, open the bracket. We took the max of these blue numbers and close the bracket minus the possible workdays, like this. And then we could just go across like this, hit Control R to do a fill right, and we get these numbers. So to understand what to do next, let's temporarily put a little scheduling issue in here. There's only 23 possible workdays, but let's go up here and just pop in 25, hit enter. We can see the alert go off. Now you may have remembered that when we did this exercise for employee scheduling, we effectively wanted the scheduling issues to show up as a positive number, but everything else we wanted to show up as just a zero. So the question is, how do we make these negatives into zeros by modifying the formula? So your first instinct may be to use an if function. For example, if any of these is less than zero, then make it zero. But in fact, here's a little piece of advice or pro tip. Every time you think you should be using an if function, try a min or a max. They're usually more simple and they can get the job done just as well. So in this case, another max function is going to work really well for us. Let's do it in here where we have a negative number. So we're going to hit F2. We're going to pop into the cell. We're going to wrap this whole thing in another max function. Open the brackets. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the max of all of this, which is minus 21 in this case, comma, and 0. So in this case, that's going to come out as 0. So now we can just hop back into the cell, do a copy, Control C, highlight all these, just straight paste, Control V, like that'll work. Now as you can see, this is done exactly what we want. Where we have a scheduling issue, we have a positive number, but for all the other cells across here, just a 0. Here's a quick little tip on how to get this exact formula down into the row where we actually want it to be. Let's hit F2. We're going to highlight this. It's effectively like highlighting this text. Hit copy, Control C. Now we're going to go down here, hit F2 to get into that cell, and we're just pasting that text right into here like this. Hit enter. Now we want to copy, highlight across like this, Alt S, down to formulas, and hit enter. So as you can see down here, this formula is working really nicely. We've got the scheduling issue there. It's also showing up here where we're consolidating the scheduling issues, if there are any plural. Let's pop over the cover page because we should be linking it back to here. So this should be easy. Let's just pop in an equal sign there, go over to the model tab like this. We're going to go right down to where it says yes on the left and hit enter. We can see that translating through here, and we still have that scheduling issue. Back to the model tab. Let's do a little cleanup now. So we want to go up here in this cell here that's orange. This was just a 0. So let's put in a 0. And now we want to effectively erase these. Little pro tip. Go to an adjacent cell that's just blank and white and just highlight across, Control Shift right like that. Control R for fill right. You clean those all up. So now we can see no scheduling issues down here. Pop back over to the cover, and that's coming through perfectly with no scheduling issues there either. So great work with that assignment. There was a little tricky formula there with that scheduling issue, but hopefully that wasn't too bad once we took you through it. Let's jump ahead to the next video now, and we want to look at the contractor payables. We'll see you there in a minute. Now, welcome back. As you can see, we're down here on the contractor payable schedule. Now, we really want to encourage you to try to build this one up on your own as well. You're going to be pleasantly surprised. There are absolutely no tricky formulas in this schedule at all. I'll just give you a couple little hints to get you going. Now, for this first gray section that's right down in here, you want to just think about using all of the contractor expenses that we just calculated in the previous video, but you want to think about when is the company going to receive them from the perspective of its cash flow. And in order to understand that, you can see we've highlighted a little footnote here, footnote number 1. Just give that a quick read. You get an idea for the delay that we're going to be looking at. You can see we've got the word load here. So you're going to want to go down here and manually load these numbers in. So one other place to do a load, and that's down here, just into this cell right here. You need to load this one in, and then you're going to be away to the races, going across like this, all the way across on this corkscrew. Now, once that corkscrew is in place, that's going to put you in a perfect position. Go down here, put these formulas in place, which will give you your cash from payables that is due to the contractors. So if you get down to this line that we're highlighting now, that's all we're asking for. Remember, make use of that printed PDF, that PDF that we've given you of the completed model. Looking at that is not cheating. We want you to, as you build this up, effectively make sure that your numbers are matching that as a check, and then you're ready for the next video. We'll see you there. Now, as you can see, we're all set up here in the contractor payable schedule. But just above, we're showing the contractor expense because we're going to be linking to that area. Now, as we mentioned, we've got the word load right here, right? So we're going to have to load all the way down here. Let's use a trick that we've shown you just a few lessons ago here. We highlight all these cells, and we're going to put 0 in here and then Control Enter, which fills them all with 0. And now we're just going to do 21 here. We've got 18 here. I think we have a 7 right there. Now, the reason that we're loading these payables in here is because they're really based on what happened in the previous month. It's before the timeline of this model, so we need to load them in. And we know they're based on the previous month because we mentioned this footnote here. Let's just hit that scroll lock key. If you look at the bottom of the screen there, you can see the contractors are paid each month for work completed in the previous month. Okay, so we know exactly why we're loading these, and now we know what to do for these formulas over here. So we promised you no complicated formulas. All we're going to do right in here, let's put in an equal sign, head straight up to here, but then over to the left to the previous month. Hit enter. We're going to do a copy. We're going to hold the Shift key and the arrows all the way across, Alt S for formulas, hit enter, we're done. So it is really that easy for this section of the model. Let's go down here. We have one cell to load in. It's 82 right here. It's our only input for this area. And then we're going to put in a simple link here, just equals. We're going to link up to this total contractor expense right here. Hit enter. Across here. It up to here, but then over to the left to the previous month. Hit enter. We're going to do a copy. We're going to hold the Shift key and the arrows all the way across, Alt S for formulas, hit enter, we're done. So it is really that easy for this section of the model. Let's go down here. We have one cell to load in. It's 82 right here. It's our only input for this area. And then we're going to put in a simple link here, just equals. We're going to link up to It's total contractor expense right here, hit enter. And now for the reductions equals negative, so we're going to be reducing the payable here by this figure right here. And then we're just going to put in a simple sum function. We're just going to grab these 3 cells above, just like that. Next up, let's just highlight these 3 cells here, copy, highlight across, Alt-S, down to formulas for pay special formulas, like that. And then for this top cell right here, this is really what gets the corkscrew going. We're going to say equals, we're going to reach back a period down to the sum, because obviously the ending balance here should exactly match and be linked to the beginning balance in the next period. Now that we're comfortable with these 4 cells in the formulas here, let's do a copy, highlight across, and as you can probably guess, Alt-S, down to formulas, and hit enter to get those formulas copied. So let's pop down to this last row now. Formulas like this, it's really easy to get the direction of fund flow wrong. I'm going to put an equal sign. It's actually going to be the end balance minus the beginning balance, just like this. Now let's do a copy, Control-C, highlight across, Alt-S, down to formulas, and hit enter. Now we've mentioned this before, but the direction of fund flow is truly one of the most common mistakes in financial modeling. So let's just give this a little sense check here. We are effectively starting with a payable of 82 and going down to 36. So we're reducing a payable. And in order to reduce a payable, that would be unfavorable from a cash perspective. So you can see here, it makes sense, and it's correct that we have a negative number here. The next period, you can see the payables increasing from 36 up to 79. If they're increasing, that frees up cash for the company, and this is correct to have a positive here. So always a good idea to sense check things, especially when it's an area like this where you can make an easy mistake just getting the direction wrong. All right, let's just use that scroll lock key just to slide down here and take a look at this total cost schedule. This is going to be the last one that we're going to complete in this particular course. You're going to find, well, if you like the last schedule, you're going to love this one. Down in these gray sections, first of all, there's not too much to build here, but what you're going to find in here is really just simple formulas, but mostly links. So go for it. We really want you to complete this one on your own. Next video, we're going to take it up. We're going to be all done. See you soon. So we're back, and right in this section here, there's definitely no tricky formulas, it's just links, but we need to know where to link to. And the key here is understanding that what we're really doing in here with cost of goods sold for the employees, and also total cost of goods sold, so we're preparing these amounts for the income statement. Knowing that they're going to the income statement, they have to be accrued amounts. So we're not going to be linking to any cash amounts here, just accrued amounts. By putting accrued amounts on the income statement, that's going to give us the meaningful measure of profit that we're looking for the company's health check. So let's hop right into it. Let's get into this cell here, put in an equal sign, and we're going to use the page up button because we have a fair distance to go up in the model. We're going to go up here to the employee schedule, and we're going to be looking for right down here. We want this total base salary, 229. Let's hit enter to make that connection. Now let's just move things up a little bit so you can see what we're doing here, and we're going to look for the benefits expense now, equal sign. Again, the page up button would be helpful, and we're going to go in here to employee totals and benefits expense. We want the total here, it's going to be 67. Let's hit enter, just move that down a little bit like that. And for the bonus expense here, let's put an equal sign. We're going to head up to the same area of the model. Right in here, we want the employee totals, and we can see that the total bonus accrued right there is 58. Let's hit enter like this, bring it down so we can see exactly what we're doing. Now into this cell right here, just a really simple little sum function like that. Open the bracket, grab these 3 numbers, and hit enter. We're ready to copy them, Control-C, highlighting across with the Shift key, Alt-S, down formulas, and that section's all done. Let's have the scroll lock key, just roll down a little bit so that we can bring this into focus here for our next section. So down to this next section right here, we're just going to put an equal sign and just literally link up to right there for the employee total. Contractor totals, put an equal sign, maybe just one tap on the page up button will get us there. Looks like it will. This total contractor expense right here, and we hit enter, we're all linked up. Let's bring that scroll lock key down a little bit so we can see things again. And in here, we're just going to put in a sum function like that. Copy, Control-C, we're going to highlight, Alt-S, down to formulas, and we're all good for that section. Now it's important here to highlight something that if we didn't highlight this, it would probably go unnoticed. If you were building a financial model like this one, you could probably just have, like, in this section at least, a couple of lines. One for employee total, and one here for COGS total. And that could be it. So why are we showing these lines here? And also, why are we showing these lines here? Well, we want this entire page of the model to work on its own. And by that we mean, we want people when they're looking at the schedule or page to understand exactly what's happening and what's contributing to it. So they can see here that these 3 figures are contributing to the employee total, and then these 3 figures, or these 2 figures here, get aggregated up for the cost of goods sold total. One of the things that you probably already noticed in Excel, there's a lot of rows. Guess what? When you buy a copy of the software, they're free. And we would advise you to use them, because a little bit of repetition like this, and down here, really goes a long way for helping people to understand exactly what's happening in your models and making them easier to audit. Now, as you can see down here, we really didn't have you do any work here, because these are just inputs, but really nice just to call out here how we have this great conditional formatting that shows us when we have increases to these amounts, like rent expense, marketing costs, and accounting costs. So at this stage, we've really prepared, as you can see right here, a lot of the figures that we're going to need for the income statement. So the good news is we're pretty well set up for the income statement at this point. Now in the next course in the series, we're going to be looking at a capital expenditure schedule, which you'll find, I think, relatively straightforward. Then we're going to start looking into a debt schedule. A little bit more tricky. And when we get to that, in fact, even once we link it all up, your numbers won't match the PDF just yet because we wouldn't have completed the cash flow statement. Don't worry. We'll walk you through it every step of the way. So I hope you've enjoyed this FP&A course in this series. Really feels like we're picking up a little bit of momentum here after we had to do quite a lot of hard work in that first course in particular. Really looking forward to the next one, and we'll see you there.